Start recording.
Mike. Good morning. Welcome to the first meeting of 2025 of the Trees and Public Greenery Committee. First order of business is the acceptance of the December minutes. Do we have any questions or corrections? No. Okay.
Move to accept.
Second.
All right.
This is really chock full of really good, hard information, so I've been passing it out to people. Because I just love all the numbers that are included in, it's like a little report.
Oh, from last month's, yeah,
2024, and it has a lot of good numbers in it, and so when I've been passing this out.
great.
Next order of business is an update on the city's tree maintenance and plans.
Yeah, we're still just plugging away. We have some projects from the fall that we haven't gotten to, and even earlier. It's been really cold, so we're doing some stump grinding this week. We have a list of maybe like 30 stumps, so it's a pretty long list for us. So we'll be working on that for a little bit longer. And then as weather permits, we'll be out doing prunes and removals as often as we can. And I am going through now, so I have identified, I think, well over the 150 tree planting sites. So I'm going out and assigning tree species selection for those sites and just kind of building up that list. And probably a month before planting, which will be early April, I'll submit all the dig safe requests, put out the door hangers, and yeah, we should be, I think the timeline is good. We should be in good shape for tree planting this coming spring.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. Any questions? I should go back to the beginning of the meeting and welcome our newest member, Scott McDermott, and I apologize for skipping over that.
That's okay. Happy to be here, so.
Yeah, we're happy to have you. And
Get a little introduction,
Mhm.
if that's
Yeah, and
appropriate.
actually, if you
Sure.
spell your name for the person who's gonna transcribe.
Sure.
Yeah.
Maybe move the mic just a little bit closer to you.
It's SCOTTMCDERMOTT.
Easy enough.
All right.
And you come, what
So-
brings you to our committee?
I have a deep appreciation for trees. I'm really impressed by this town's tree program. So I also work in the industry. I'm a landscape designer. I have a small landscape design business. So anyway, I'm really, ever since moving here 8 years ago, like I said, impressed with the town's commitment to its trees. And I've seen just amazing things in terms of, the tree planting program, but also the follow-up care, which is so important. I've had neighbors of mine have free trees planted in the front of their yards in the city right of way, and then the town comes back and takes care of them a year or 2 years later. It's just
Cool.
amazing to see. So
Thank you. What neighborhood are you in?
I'm on Thornton Street.
Oh,
So
cool. Yeah,
the,
the crick.
the creek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
So anyway,
Cool.
that's my story.
Happy to
Awesome.
have
Well,
you.
welcome aboard.
Yes, happy to have you.
Thanks.
Okay, the next item would be tree removal request. Do we have? So Ian, are you here just of interest?
Yep.
For the meeting? Okay, thank you. And are you here for any of the removals?
No, I'm also interested.
Oh, great. Oh, well, thank you for coming.
Wonderful.
So Max?
Yeah.
12 Miller?
212 Miller on Highland Street. So we did a tree removal that ash right there is what we removed maybe about a month ago. And then when I was there with the crew, I turned the corner onto Highland and there were 3 additional ash trees over there. So we can probably discuss 212 Miller on Highland and 186 Miller Ave on Highland. So again, just so ash tree is right there to the tree on the left, Peter. Yep, so that's an ash, and then across the street is another ash on Highland still. That right there. And then if you turn one more to the left, that tree near the driveway is also an ash. So those three are what we're discussing right now. All have bark blending, poles. So they're smaller ash trees, easy removals, and we'll get in there and get some other trees in after the fact. But given the proximity to another large ash that had very clear signs, it's only a matter of time until those look the same and are in the same condition. So
How old are those trees?
I don't know, I'd probably say 15, 15,
So we
20
might-
years at most.
We might have planted those before we were keen on the emerald ash borer.
Probably, because what, found in Concord in 2012. Okay, yeah, 2012. So
Hmm.
that's just outside of when it was found. I mean, it was talked about since the early 2000s in other parts of the country, but
Right.
it wasn't known to be in this region until, again,
So since these are smaller trees, are we able to replant rather quickly versus the larger
Yeah.
trees where we give kind of maybe a year to sort of let it settle out?
I
Is that a
think-
true assumption?
So I think that's probably the largest tree right there where Peter's cursor is. That's the largest out of the batch.
Oh, in terms of the ash.
Yeah, in terms of the three ash we're talking about today, I have no problem. I mean, we could remove those trees and then plant nearby, as long as they're not in that same exact spot where all of that, root material is
Mhm.
primarily. We should be in good shape. I'd be a little hesitant. I'd be hesitant to say we'll put it right in the same spot, like
Right,
the very
yes.
next,
Yeah, but there
within a
seems to
couple
be
of
plenty
months.
of room around.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Great planting
Yeah.
spots if we
Mhm.
don't get to it this spring. Because it does take some coordination. It's a really tight couple of months between now and April. If we remove these trees and the stumps are still there, we probably won't plant. But if I can, get together one more stump grinding day or two and include these, that certainly allows us to plant more trees. If, say, I go out to a neighborhood and a bunch of people say they don't want any trees, well, now I have to find backups, and those would be really good backup locations.
Mhm.
So yeah, I can see that being the path forward for tree planting in
Mhm.
2025, but I have no problem waiting until 26.
One correction then, that was 2013.
It was 2013 in Concord? Okay.
Okay.
Well, there were murmurings in 2012 and then confirmed in 13.
It's the smallest ash trees that have come in front of this
Yeah,
committee.
yeah.
So it sort of piques my interest.
I think I was making a habit of putting every ash just so we have, an even more reinforced record of all the ash that we're removing for EAB. I think that was something I carried over from 2024. But yeah, other than that, that's it for these Highland Street removals.
Move to remove the trees as requested.
Second.
So moved.
Get those out of the best spring.
By spring? Yeah, before emergent. Yeah,
it'll help.
yeah, absolutely. I think we'll get those pretty quickly here.
Okay, so we have a black walnut on Middle Road.
Yes, did we all see this tree? Did you happen to see
Yes.
the
There's a lot of debris on the ground
thank you, I was about to mention, so that was
Probably more now.
and a
probably,
very large chunk
yeah, yep, so
is down.
that was what initially caught my eye, and then I get out and look and, yeah, happened to see sort of this large wound off the back, house side that kind of, it extends into the upper part of the canopy. Peter, this is over at 942 Middle Road.
42. For some reason, I had 189
Oh.
Miller still.
Okay.
I had
Um,
that on the agenda. 189.
oh,
That's the hi-
186.
That's
think
the one,
Yeah,
got
we
it.
got
All of
those,
the-
yeah.
Combined.
Way behind, sorry.
No, you're good. But so my first thought was maybe we could get through with just pruning this tree. And then after looking more at that sort of central leader, there's, one of the larger healthy branches is actually attached to a section of that leader that's got a hole and it looks a little rotten. So the odds of that probably coming out in a windstorm, and that's the best thing that tree has, in my opinion. It's like, I don't want to, it's going to take less time to just remove the tree and then get something else in there. So
Is there, can we just, Peter, what about a sidewalk improvement or is that the What's in the queue for part of Middle Road, if you might know?
Nothing in terms of sidewalk at this point. The bicycle pedestrian master plan is being updated. And there was intended to have a bicycle corridor put down Middle Road. But it did not speak, the original did not speak of reworking the sidewalk. This sidewalk actually was actually in pretty good shape.
Mhm.
It was not built with curbing because the intent was to have sheet flow of stormwater across. This was before my time, the director. So I'm not a huge fan of this section of sidewalk. The way it's configured, I don't feel it works really well.
Not with the speed that comes off of,
Right, so that is it's a bigger project that needs to be envisioned, and we're letting the bike ped master plan drive this a little bit. So
Mhm.
you're given all our needs in the city,
Mhm.
this does not rise to
Right.
the top.
I thought perhaps not with the skate park, there's so many people going out there, and it's become really kind of brought in, that whole area has been brought more into the
Sure.
community because it's just so well used. It's so
Sure, yeah.
successful. And I think I've definitely spoken about this area because I've met with many neighbors in there. And I know we also own a building by FedEx on out. And when people get off of 95 and they're coming into town, and I know there's like 5 to 6 stoplights that kind of just, okay, slow down after you've been on 95 for a couple hours. I don't know if those stoplights are as helpful as they're annoying to people. And they seem to still continue to accelerate. And I did some research, and I feel that trees are traffic calming to speed. And I was doing some research, and there's some more studies, and I could do some more complete report on that. But one study found that 46% decrease in crash rates along urban arteries and highway sites after landscaping improvements were installed. And another study found that placing trees and planters in urban roadside reduced mid-block crashes by 5 to 20%. I can also source this for you. Far less than 1% of US annual car crashes involve a tree in an urban street. So this piece, as we took in the last couple of years, we have taken down Eversource, came, and we had some big trees that were sick and needed to come down. But this is becoming much more open visually, and the psychology, I feel, of drivers once they come off of 95 and coming into town is to continue to speed. The police are there a lot, and that's a way to calm speed is by having a police presence. Making the road more narrow is another psychological. Peter, you know quite well about traffic calming measures, but I just don't want us to forget that tree plantings near street edges is another traffic calming measure, and that we have to, I'd like to think about that, especially in that area. The neighbors have been incredibly proactive to slow down speed there, and we have the blinking light for pedestrians. And so I think the more trees we take down, we're sort of fighting against all the measures that have been done, initiated by that neighborhood. So maybe we could, I don't know if we could step it up, be more aggressive.
Yeah.
With some thoughts. I just wanted to bring that up.
My own,
So,
go ahead.
So, your points are absolutely correct. The challenge though, in this particular roadway is width
Mhm.
and configuration. It's a straight shot, and they're coming off the highway. It's a major corridor, relative to traffic volumes.
Mhm.
So there are, limited things you can do, for traffic calming. The history of trees on the road did not change the speed. So the trees it's not as if the trees being removed have increased the speed. The speed has been an issue for a number of years.
That's right. Yeah.
And really the way to address the speed in this area is to reconfigure the roadway so that it's much narrower, forcing people to an uncomfortable situation because people are as comfortable as they go as fast as they're comfortable going. And with new cars, they're beautiful, they're quiet. You do not realize you're going 30, 40, 50 miles an hour
Right.
because it's
Uh-huh.
so comfortable. It's like, oh,
Right.
I feel great.
Mhm,
And next thing you realize, you're going way too fast in an urban area.
mhm.
So you need to make people uncomfortable. Having trees along the side visually constricts the roadway, so that adds a little bit of that.
Mhm.
So you're absolutely correct. The challenge with this particular area is multifold, and it's not, planting trees is not gonna be the panacea. It's not gonna take away from it, but there's a much bigger, and we're very much aware of the challenges of this
Uh-huh.
section of roadway.
I know you are, and I just wanted to weigh in that as a member of this committee and as a tree advocate, I do find them useful. And I
yeah,
just
yeah.
wanted to, and as we continue to remove these trees, I think it's just opening up, like, go ahead, just
Well,
keep
if
going.
you've noticed, all the traffic calming projects, all the streetscape projects include trees.
Yes, I do notice that,
All our
right?
projects, and
Mhm.
that is really for a number of reasons. One, because it helps the environment. Two, it helps us, it's a quality of life thing, it slows
Mhm.
people down. So, yeah, we are very much aware of that, but I'm glad you brought it up because people who watch this in the future will now be educated relative to that aspect of, in addition to stormwater, control, temperature control.
And just
all
de-stressing
those
and
things,
driving.
trees,
with-
all the
Yeah,
benefits that trees,
Right.
healthy tree, canopy,
it was the tree that kind of, when you came in, it was on the left-hand side that kind of hung over, that went down a lot.
Mm.
That, to me personally, because I travel that road a lot and I also might go a little faster, that tree went, oh, Deb, you're in a neighborhood, you better slow down. And I know some of these people now and I know their children. And so it's a cue, it's a visual cue to remind me. So when that tree went down, it was like, oh, I sort of thought about
Sure.
that. So, okay,
Absolutely.
just wanted to bring it up.
Of course, yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, so.
42?
sorry, did we vote for that one?
No.
No,
Right.
not yet. So can we vote for this one? Do we have a motion to remove the black walnut?
I'll make the motion to remove the one.
Do we have a second?
Second,
Okay, um,
Okay. I'll
that's
go
good.
on.
We're-
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'd hate to see a black walnut go. Langdon Park.
So for, just as a preface, so one of these trees, one of these Norway spruce I tagged was completely stone dead. I tagged it just to kind of alert the public that this thing's coming down, and also if you were all in there checking out the other spruce, just to kind of have you all aware that, hey, this thing is dead. We're not taking down this big tree for, normally we don't, if a tree is dead in this way. We don't necessarily alert you all, but again, because of the site, it being Langdon Park. Peter, if you actually go to the exit ramp of City Hall, that will, I think we can get a clear shot of the spruce that I'm talking about now. So it's, the sun is in the perfect spot for it.
Mm,
If you go back, there it is. You pan to the right. So it's there kind of in the very back of the park to the left with your cursor. There you go. Yep, that one.
It's the really dead one.
Yep, is it the big tall dead one? Yes.
Find.
Yeah.
Or an evergreen.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. In the, November of 20, it is not a lunch. So yeah, so just, I wanted to just make you all aware, that we will be removing this in addition to the other one that we'll talk about that that I think, needs approval. So Peter, actually, when you were, sorry to kind of bounce you back and forth, but when you were over on Lincoln, that would have been a good spot to see this other tree potentially. Or even from like,
the others.
actually you
The
can,
light- the light tree?
yeah, it is. So you can kind of see it. It's where the sun is right there. Yep.
In the back of Dick's.
Yeah, that
Dick
works.
Adams' yard.
Right, yeah. So
Yeah, you can see the-
yeah, so there's just big wound that's circling around this tree, but actually maybe right below where your cursor is, so there's a buttress root that's starting to get rotten. I remember seeing this tree with Chuck Baxter and Corin Hollowell when I did my application climb. I climbed one of the sugar maples in there. And they pointed this tree out, like, look at this tree. It's like hanging on and it's got this huge wound and they think it's a lightning strike and all this stuff. And
Oh, definitely was lightning strike.
definitely a lightning strike. So the
I
idea,
remember the day it happened.
oh, really?
Yeah, there's a big section of bark that got blown out,
That's cool.
just like ran right down the tree.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So Chuck and Corin,
That's cold.
It is really cool.
Chuck and Corin had done some work on trying to keep the tree going, you know,
Yeah.
it has lasted several years. They did do some work on, it, but the inside of the tree was just, it just cooks the tree.
Mhm.
You know,
Did we take something down, approve something within this past year near that tree? Didn't we take something else?
I
Something near
think the
the
last big thing we removed over there was an ash that was close to Lincoln.
Right, I think that's.
And
yeah.
then before that, there was a large red oak that was like
Mhm.
right behind the pole right there
Right.
that I removed.
Yeah, okay.
But those, I think those are the only notable things out of this area in the
Mhm.
park. And we've since, as you can see, have tried to plant some other stuff.
Mhm.
shut
You
up.
can see that, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, we can note that the foliage is very thin, but there's still some activity up there. The entire top is stone dry, but there is like kind of really sparse foliage. I mean, there's no grand recovery for this tree. And the fact that this buttress root is now starting to look a little soft and punky.
Mhm.
So this has not been posted though?
It has been posted.
Oh, it has
Yeah,
been
the other tree was also posted, but that was the stone dead one that I just posted as a sort of notification to you all in the neighborhood. This one is, I think, what we will require some approval for, to remove this tree.
So do we have a motion to remove?
Is there any ability to top it and leave like 30, 40 feet? of
Yeah, I
it
mean, we
and
can,
have it be habitat for a little while?
I see no reason not to.
Oh.
I see no reason not to.
Like
We
a
can,
snap.
we can certainly keep watching that root flare, and if it starts to really progress, I can just resubmit the approval or the removal request.
But so topping it and.
We
bring-
could, I
bring
mean,
it
it's,
down.
it's surrounded by other trees, so I don't think it's really feeling, a whole lot of force from wind and anything like that. The fact that the foliage is so thin, it's not like it's gonna be holding on to pounds and pounds and pounds of snow or ice.
Mhm.
So yeah, we can absolutely take it down to something. My suspicion is that it's just gonna keep on this slow track toward, to just being done. So, yeah, I have no problem with leaving it if we reduce.
I defer to your recommendation on it. If you think it's
yeah.
better to take it out, then we should take it out.
I think if we take some out, if we reduce a lot of that weight above and leave it so that it's sort of sitting below the tree line around all the other trees, I think that's going to keep it from experiencing more wind loading. And again, I think it's not going to be holding on to a whole lot of weight. It's a middle of a park. I don't really see people like camping under there or setting up a hammock or a slat. Like if there was a high frequency of people always underneath that tree, then I can see really moving and pushing hard for removal. But if the committee's fine with pruning and leaving it as is, and allow it to slowly decline, I have no problem with that also. Again, the caveat being as long as that buttress roots and others don't
Safe.
continue to, rot out, at which at that case, then I would want to remove it. It still has quite a bit of roots at the base that aren't in that same state. So I feel okay with that.
I would move to allow Max to take it down or to an extent that you feel comfortable.
I like that
Because when
idea.
you take
Yes.
the top out of that, you're gonna learn a lot more than any of us know right now.
Yeah, and we'll see, we
Yeah.
can get a cross section on it.
If it moves and comes back, it's okay. If it moves one way and doesn't come back, it's a whole different deal.
Okay.
Yeah, so in that process of doing the prune, if it is structurally sound, we will keep it, and if not, we will continue along with the removal and finish it off.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, sounds like a good
Um,
plan.
Great idea, Peter. I
Well,
like
and
a
I
good
have to
snag,
give
you know
credit to-
that.
I have to give credit to Corin and Chuck.
Mm.
Who, and maybe you were involved, that, I think it was a maple that was.
Right there, right
Yeah,
next
in
to
that
it.
area
Yeah,
that
I did.
we
Yeah,
Topped and left for a while
I
for
did that.
habitat.
I did it. I don't think I
Yeah.
did it really well because the idea was to also make a perch for like a bird of prey.
Yeah.
And I
Hmm.
just couldn't, that was the first one I did, and I couldn't quite, I'm trying to conceptualize. I'm like, what? So Chuck, what am I doing? He's like, just cut more off on the corners. And We eventually did remove it, but I always looked at that tree being like, that's one weird thing to do, but now I totally appreciate it.
Yeah.
So
If,
I appreciate that.
and we had a plaque, didn't we put a plaque on it that,
There was
left
a-
for Habitat?
yeah, there
Maybe
was
if
a
we could
sign.
do
Do we
this-
have another one of those?
We can,
It's still
yeah,
there.
I
Was-
think,
I
is it
just-
still there?
I was hoping.
is a
that
sign
we
in
did
the-
have
yeah,
some
near the Linden.
Educational tool to extend that, what the intention was.
Yeah.
Of the situation.
I think,
But I thought then Peter would say, Deb, you'd have to write that up to.
the file still exists, I believe, for that sign, so I can just have our sign shop print another one if we can't find the same one.
Fabulous.
So,
That's great. Okay, go.
So I have a question, since we're talking about Langdon Park. Given that it's a historic park, do you have any concerns about any other trees when?
there are some, I think there's, I know for sure there are some other dead trees in, sort of along Junkins Ave. They're not nearly as significant as the spruce. Other than that, I mean, some of those sugar maples are getting really big. We went through and did a lot of deadwood pruning on those. Was it maybe 2 years ago?
Hmm.
So, as of right, I mean, I'd have to really walk the area. So, but nothing so alarming that it's immediately eye catching. I should take a walk through there and really take stock of what we have. So I can report back next month with a little
That'd
bit
be
more.
great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
And since we are still at Langdon Park, and I'm gonna bring up, conifers again.
Yes.
Because that's such a lovely space and so notable since we go to City Hall and again, having, that might be a good place for to choose some conifers. Because it just does activate your, visually for the winter time. I was also doing because it's January, I was doing some research on the value of conifers in an urban setting, and it has its pluses and minuses, but
Yeah.
they are year round and it does mitigate water really well versus other trees that drop its leaves. It doesn't drop its leaves, which is another positive thing. It is acidic and the soil probably has to be contended with, but AJ probably knows some, maybe some urban choices, especially since it wouldn't be in a place where you couldn't see, through it.
Yeah.
So it's not a right away visual impairment.
I do intend to put another spruce where that stone dead one is in Langdon.
Great.
I mean, if that tree lasted to that size maturity, I think I think that'd be a great spot to throw another one back into. We talked about putting, I think, I'm shooting for maybe three
Great.
conifers that I can spread across. So we have one that's going out on Route 33. And then we just decided we'll put one there in Langdon and we can find another park to throw another spruce. So,
Great.
Just to bring back the Dick sort of perspective on the historic part of this, next year is 150th of Langdon Park.
cool.
So it'd be
Oh.
a good way to do something,
Yeah,
get a couple trees in there.
Absolutely.
Keep that in the back of your mind of,
Well, how about if we do, Arbor Day,
it could be Arbor. Yeah.
Yeah.
and
done
then,
Arbor Day out there in the past, and it's a good way to cycle back. I mean,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
to keep it out there that
And that's the city's first park, correct? Was that the
I've got
first
it.
designated park
Sure.
in the city? Yes.
Historians.
I don't know if it was the first, but we're getting ready for the 250th of Langdon.
Okay.
Langdon gave that, one of Langdon's descendants
Yes.
gave that to them
grandson.
as part of the centennial. Was part of the centennial events. I don't know, we're gonna see Dick Adams. Where the hell is he?
Right.
yeah, all
That's
the trees
right.
came from around New England.
Everybody had to pony
Yeah.
up, everybody had to pony up some money and all his
That's
buddies
right.
ponied up. So Dick had pictures. When we
Mhm.
took the oak down. On the big oak in the corner that ended up in the police station. Dick had photos of some of those events. Cool. So he shared.
We could invite him to
Yeah.
share some more information
Yep.
once
Yeah.
again, yeah. That's
So
wonderful.
let's anticipate,
Yeah.
so that we.
Yeah,
when,
we can put something together.
Maybe we can get some of the other arborists to do a volunteer day there again and
Yeah.
Mhm.
some
Mm,
training.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Great. Thank you, AJ, for remembering that. Now you're the institutional, old.
Now I'm the
member.
old guy. thanks.
You're the
We won't record that. Okay, thank you. New business.
Yeah, so a little bit of a interesting, some circumstances has led, 2 trees to be planted on city right of way. Um, it, how do I go about this? We usually, for people new in the room, we are submitted a landscaping plan that we then approve. So we'll look at species, we'll look at location, et cetera. And then that gives the contractors the ability to go in and plant as what's been approved. I don't know what happened. I was never told about this project or that they were planting on right of way. But they went ahead and I have highlighted them in red on that photo. It's just 2 Amelanchier, 2 Serviceberry that were planted. I suppose we're retroactively approving these for planting. For what it's worth, I mean, we plant Serviceberry currently. And I have no reason to, fault them for selecting those trees for those locations. I'm not the biggest fan of having the landscaping be just stones. But that's, I think that's more of an aesthetic choice than anything at this point. But yeah, I don't know.
It's not a problem with the survival of the tree versus.
Not necessarily. No, I don't.
No?
No, not the. I mean, like you can argue, yeah, like the mulch will like slowly leach. It'll slowly decompose and allow like some nutrients to leach out, and it retains water better, and all of these things. But I think overall, I don't see it as this big,
But
to
we
do.
could ask them to take that out.
Potentially, I think my only, I don't know. This is a scenario where, I don't know if we've
Wiring.
ever had a scenario where,
It's not in the approved site plan, so they're not obligated to maintain it over time.
okay,
What we could do is we could work with them to adjust the site plan
Mhm.
to include them so that
Okay.
they're obligated, if they die, they have to replace them.
okay,
Um,
Yeah.
and frankly, I have no issue with them,
yeah,
adding, stuff onto it, as long as they're responsible for it and it's not.
Yeah.
our-
Concur.
absolutely. Yeah, and I think realistically, when when I was reviewing our, like our property line GIS site, it looks really close for what it's worth. I mean, it's one of those things that, I hesitate to say it, but it almost looks like it could very well be on their private property, but all signs indicate that it is on ours, on city right of way.
So why don't we follow up with planning?
Okay,
There should be a true boundary survey done for this development.
and I think, so this was generated, the request came from Vincent Hayes, so
Okay.
I've looked at the map that he provided, and then I cross-reference it with what we have, and maybe that's where
Yeah.
the disparity is, but yeah, I guess for now, do we all sort of approve these trees and landscape? I mean, it's,
And they're tough little shrubs.
Mhm.
Rocks
Yeah.
will still reduce compaction and they'll keep the mowing guy away.
Yep.
So I mean,
All right.
it solves at least some problems.
Yeah.
They're not adding a risk. It's not a big tree. It's not gonna be a risk to you. It's not invasive
No.
species, not a problem species.
nope,
It's not gonna get into the power lines,
Yeah.
so.
shouldn't, no,
And they'll have some decent little flowers. It's
yeah,
kind of a miniature plant for what they could have put in, but
Right.
That would be my only complaint is,
they could have went bigger.
given the scale of those buildings.
Right.
but it could have been a big tree in there. But obviously, I mean,
I do love Amelanchiers. It's a
do
native
I.
tree.
Mhm.
It's a great tree.
But I love big trees.
Yeah,
You know, how I feel about a big tree.
but if you're moving into a condo, you don't want
I,
leaves and raking and,
Right.
you're going there because you don't want that.
see, that's the problem for the tenants 20 years from now.
right, they'll be gone,
Yeah.
but, okay, so
Great, so
where did we end up?
we're all
So
okay
we're-
with,
Yeah.
Okay,
So
with
follow up
that.
with them and, determine whether it's city property or not. and
Okay.
Put them on notice.
Great.
So we're approving retroactively to plan.
perfect.
Right. That was
Okay,
That was
just of our old and new business, so I will stop sharing. Back to the,
all right. Do we have any older new business other than that?
Mhm.
That's it?
I was just inquiring personally, I did not make the city council meeting when Peter was acknowledged for his service.
Mhm.
How'd it go? Did you go?
That's great.
It was great?
Yeah, what more can you say about, Peter Hoffman? It's,
Right. Not, I know, that's why I was sad that I couldn't make it, but
Yeah.
because I'm sure it was lovely.
no, it was very nice.
Those are recorded too, right?
Yeah, it's recorded.
Yeah, I hadn't seen the post. Yeah. Will we be doing anything to kind of acknowledge his service? Was that part of it or we?
There was a piece of pink granite that will be placed at his tree farm
Oh,
area.
okay. Yeah. Okay.
As a acknowledgement, so working with Corn, we're getting that placed, so.
Cool.
yes.
Okay,
Nice.
great.
Yeah, I mean,
Nice.
I'm sure there'll be additional accolades,
Yeah.
as time goes on, for all his contributions.
Mhm,
So
yeah.
he's an outstanding
Any-
person, and
He's been an
Awesome.
outstanding citizen for our community. Yes.
pleasure and an honor to work with him as long as I have, so.
Mhm. Okay, thank you. Good follow.
Okay, so
One business type thing, there recently was a new ordinance, I think, or something that was passed by council, which relates to an orientation or volunteer kind of manual, just so people, so Scott, so you'll, as a new member, you'll be introduced to that. As members that have existed, it's not required, but it's encouraged, as well as staff, to, read through and kind of just get kind of the lay of the land, what's appropriate types of actions as volunteers and what are your roles and responsibilities. And it's to improve, to clear up some of the confusion that's occurred over time. So,
That's smart. And we can find that on the city site?
yes.
not yet.
Not yet,
Well, the
okay.
draft was included in the city council packet, I believe, for
Yeah.
approval.
So legal and Suzanne Woodland, the deputy city manager, will be reaching out to committees. And I've asked actually, and I'm not sure whether we're gonna be able to do this or not, is to kind of have an orientation. Just have somebody come in and just kind of chat. So,
That's great.
see,
Great.
but and I was speaking to Pat earlier and she replied to, or she said something to me that made me want to make sure that this gets communicated to you all as volunteers on the committee, that what you do for the city is very important and we appreciate resident participation in these committees. It is, we as city employees and staff don't always, we have the jobs we do, so we just kind of go, this is what we got to get done. And getting input from residents may not always change what we're doing, but it'll better inform us as to, the impacts or as to, what the desires of the community are. So we really appreciate your involvement in this committee. And, please, if there are others that are interested in participating in committees, encourage them, because I know, there can be the perception that it's onerous and difficult, but it's also very rewarding.
Mhm.
So, and it is appreciated.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Okay, so I guess we are adjourned.
Second.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of seconds